Now, over 130 public figures, including J.K. Rowling, former Prime Minister Liz Truss, and some little no-marks like me, have called for a public inquiry into the harm done to children in the name of gender ideology. This comes in the wake of the Cass review in recent weeks and the NHS's decision to halt the use of puberty blockers for under-18s. Joining me right now is the founder of the Declaration for Biological Reality, James Esses, who has organised that letter calling for the public inquiry. Good morning to you, James.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I think a lot of us who've been campaigning on these issues for a long time, and certainly you've been very prominent in that, felt that the Cass review was a game changer. It was a real sea change. We had an awful lot of people who've been, just calling people like you and me transphobes and bigots, accepting that actually this was a proper review done by a senior paediatrician, and it was exposing that a lot of the treatment that's been given, the medical treatment given to children in recent years, is experimental and harmful. And yet we still haven't got a sort of a mea culpa from the NHS or from the Tavistock or many of the politicians supporting it. So what are you asking for in this public inquiry? What do you want to find out?
Well, quite right. The Cass review really was a game changer, and it's provided us now with irrefutable proof of the harm that has been caused to children in those NHS gender clinics. But it doesn't go far enough. We know, for example, that a number of adult gender clinics withheld data from the Cass review. That tells us that type of review doesn't have enough teeth, whereas a public inquiry does.
Those people should just be, they should just be sacked on the spot for gross misconduct, surely. That would be the normal reaction to that.
I couldn't agree more. They're literally trying to impede the progress of evidence, and evidence-based treatment for children. But crucially, what we need to examine, and a public inquiry would fulfill this function, is to work out exactly how this ideology has managed to infect both state and non-state institutions. We need to work out exactly what we as a society need to do to ensure that no future children come to harm in the name of this ideology. And crucially, we need to make sure that those who are responsible for this are held to account and, if necessary, face proper punishment.
Yeah, indeed. And then that's the thing. There needs to be sort of a reckoning, I feel, with this. Not to be vindictive, but just the fact that, these people are supposed to be medical practitioners, Hippocratic oath, first do no harm, and they were doing harm. And their refusal to provide the evidence that they were doing something that was safe and they knew to be safe is a bit of a giveaway. We've also had the extraordinary situation where Hilary Cass, the paediatrician and former president of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, somebody knows what she's doing. She's written a very fair and very calm, fact-based report. She has had to, admit that she's been told she can't go on public transport because, facing death threats and violence. Oh, by the way, I wonder which side is doing that. Which side of that toxic debate do you think is actually threatening the person who's authored a completely neutral report? But she's actually been openly critical of those who have made up lies about her report, including the Labour MP Dawn Butler, who has form for such things, making completely false claims in Parliament that Hilary Cass had not included 100 studies into transgenderism, which was just because they didn't suit her agenda, which is just completely untrue. There are still an awful lot of people, not just in the clinics, but also in the world of politics and the media, who are still defending this appalling treatment of children.
Indeed. Her report was the epitome of thoroughness and also balance, and it was extremely measured as well in its tone and its language. I've recently read a statement from one of the chair people at the British Psychological Society, who essentially said that her report should be disregarded on the basis that she is just a quote-unquote cisgender heterosexual woman. This is shocking.
It really is. Do you think things have changed? Do you think things will change? I was delighted on Thursday's show to see that there's, we fear about the NHS in Scotland. We're carrying on with puberty blockers, but not in England, but that they were stopping. There's going to be some efforts to stop private clinics from giving puberty blockers to children. Do you feel that we are now sort of over the mountain of the horror of this and we're going to get to the truth?
Well, we've had some significant victories over recent months, but this ideology runs deep. Again, that's why we're calling for this public inquiry, because children are still being taught in certain schools that they can be born in the wrong body.
Yeah.
Private corporations are still glorifying medical transitioning in pursuit of profit. Stonewall has still infiltrated numerous government departments, and the list goes on and on and on. So we need to really root out this ideology. But certainly the response to this call for a public inquiry has been excellent. Our letter has already been viewed 2.5 million times. The signatures are pouring in, and now we wait and see what Downing Street do. But certainly, if Rishi Sunak did call for a public inquiry, this could be a real positive, lasting legacy of this government.
Yeah, although these public inquiries tend to cost an awful lot of money and take a very long time. But again, it's the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this and actually have the legal right to actually see a lot of the documentation. Because when we saw the doubly pass in America's documentation, it made it very clear just what an absolute sham of medical treatment this really is. Great to talk to you. Well done for all the work you've done on this, James Esses. You have been totally and utterly vindicated in all of this. I appreciate you joining us. Very quick word from Sam Armstrong. Do you think there should be a public inquiry?
I've got to say, I don't agree with you here. I don't like the idea of lots of lawyers spending vast amounts of public money to get to not a lot further than what we already know.
Okay.
I tell you what needs to happen. The NHS works for us. Ministers need to order all of these papers to be released.
Yeah. And also, here's an idea, like schools need to stop doing this stuff as well. Schools, if ministers don't have the power, they shouldn't do it.